Hello, hello. Well, isn't this a nice surprise? I am all shook up about this convoy, and I just wanted to air a couple of thoughts about it. Um, Saturday on CNN, survey question at Smerconish.com was: Should NATO go to war? Should NATO go to war against Ukraine? 54,000 people voted on the Saturday survey question. We set a record. And, a lot of them came within that first hour, but 54,000 people voted on that survey question. That was stunning. Equally stunning is that 80% of them said yes. And maybe there's some confirmation bias in there that people who are like really passionate about the need to do something to help Ukraine are the type who responded to that question. I don't know. I just, it's 80% of people presumably watching on CNN. I know that sometimes the survey questions take on a life of their own and people aren't even watching or not even listening to the radio program. I get that. But by and large, I think they are people who were listening to my commentary and then went and voted. And the fact that, a large percentage of CNN viewers were of the opinion that NATO should go to war on behalf of Ukraine, I thought that was really interesting. So then yesterday's survey question, I'll get back to the convoy in a moment. Yesterday's survey question asked, does the unity of the world's response evoke more rational or irrational behavior on the part of Putin? And what I was getting at with that survey question is that things seem to be yesterday going so well. You had worldwide condemnation of Putin. You had the ruble collapsing, the economy collapsing, Germany upping the ante, the EU. I mean, everybody coming at Russia. And it looked like such a horrific decision for Putin and one that would fail. And I posed it yesterday with a lot of caveats. But what I was really getting at was maybe he's like a caged or cornered rat. And maybe he's going to now do even more irrational things. Well, 9,197 people voted, and it was let's call it 80-20, 80%, 81.45 said it's going to make him more irrational. It's going to make him more irrational. I said yesterday, and I quoted Stephen Walt from Harvard. I said yesterday, the guy needs an off-ramp. Like, give him an off-ramp where he can save face and spare Ukraine in the process. And Mike Allen today for Axios writes on exactly the same issue. With Ukraine holding Russia off longer than many U.S. officials had expected, President Biden now faces a great unanswered question: how to give Vladimir Putin an off-ramp to avoid even greater calamity. The point is that Mike Allen is like I was yesterday. Hey, Ukraine has risen to the challenge. Zelensky is looking outright Churchillian. Putin is looking like a fool and a madman in the eyes of the world. How can we placate Putin, save Ukraine while things are going so well? But that's yesterday's news. Because today's news, last night's news, is this convoy. It started out, the reports were like, they said it was 3 miles long. Now they say it's 40 miles long. A 40-mile long convoy now, according to the reports that I'm watching on the outskirts of Kiev from CNN, a massive Russian column was closing in on Kyiv Tuesday, with U.S. officials warning Russia's sheer numbers could be able to overcome Ukrainian resistance. The 40-mile-long, 64-kilometer Russian military convoy made up of armored vehicles, tanks, towed artillery, and other logistical vehicles has reached the outskirts of Ukraine's capital. The new images come as U.S. officials told lawmakers in classified briefings Monday that a second wave of Russian troops will likely consolidate the country's positions within Ukraine and by sheer numbers could be able to overcome the Ukrainian resistance, according to people familiar with the briefings. So I was watching this, as many of you were watching this last night, and I was keeping an eye on Twitter, and Reuters tweeted out images of the convoy, and Reuters said satellite images taken on Monday show a Russian military convoy north of Kyiv that stretches 40 miles. So I retweeted and I added my own message. And my own message was, are we going to look back at this moment and ask why some force with the capability didn't take out the convoy? I posed the question. I raised the issue. I didn't say we need to go strike the convoy. I was asking the question, like, is this one of these moments? I'm always hesitant to make any World War II Nazi references, but I got to tell you what's in my mind is I'm thinking, is this like FDR failing to bomb railroad tracks that are headed for Auschwitz? That's what I was thinking. So people responded. Twitter can be a really nasty place. But with many of the tweets that came in response to what I said, they were thoughtful. And people were largely saying, I'm wondering the same thing. Karen, I have to believe plans are in place, not with the U.S. taking the lead, but as you said, some force to take out front of convoy, followed by attacks on those stuck behind. Debbie, such a good question. It seems we all have a reaction at this very moment. Some say don't, but I'm in favor of stopping this now, AKA take them out. But then again, I've got no skin in the game. I'm just fearful in Northwest New Jersey. I get it. Anna, this is where the US, UK, France, Germany, and other democratic nations will embolden Putin if they fail to prevent this convoy from reaching Kyiv. If they fail to prevent, they'll embolden Putin. Because a lot of people say, what are you, crazy, taking him on? The world would be in a nuclear war. But Anna says we're going to regret it because we'll embolden him if we don't. Buddy, no, Smerconish. The U.S. and NATO allies don't want to escalate with kinetic activity, at least not yet. In the meantime, IEDs, NATO munitions, they are starting to get, and knowledge of terrain with tactical advantages for Ukrainians in Kyiv. Helen says, I've been wondering this for hours. Where are the angels of the sky and the world? Good men must prevail over evil. History is being written in blood. And then there was Lainey Liberty who said, do you want World War III? Diane, it's been driving me nuts. They are moving so slow. The Ukrainians could place IEDs and other surprise 10 miles down the road. Duh. And then one more in terms of my reaction. Scott Adams is the Dilbert guy, the Dilbert cartoon. So he tweeted at me and he said, and this is an interesting point, he said, looks like a trap, stretching the supply line first. Maybe it is a trap. Maybe it's exactly what Putin wants. But the point is, I saw the convoy, you saw the convoy, I wondered, you wondered, shouldn't something be done about the convoy? Or as I wrote, are we going to look back at this moment and ask why some force with the capability didn't take out the convoy? Unbeknownst to me, Richard Engel, the NBC journalist, was tweeting something very similar and getting hammered for it from the Yahoo.com coverage today. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel came under fire Monday after posting a tweet that seemed to lament that the U.S. had not yet attacked Russia for invading Ukraine. So here's Engel's tweet. Perhaps the biggest risk calculation, moral dilemma of the war so far. A massive Russian convoy is about 30 miles from Kyiv. The U.S., NATO could likely destroy it, but that would be direct involvement against Russia and risk everything. These are the words that he offered that people got worked up about. Does the West watch in silence as it rolls? Does the West watch in silence as it rolls? I mean, similar to me saying, are we going to look back at this moment and ask why some force with the capability didn't take out the convoy? So in his case, and maybe it's because, he's the chief foreign correspondent for NBC News and I'm just a bloviator on radio and cable television. But many Twitter users were shocked at what they saw as his eagerness to get the war on and tried to remind him of be careful what you wish for. Santa Syed, quote, this is an NBC News U.S. senior correspondent near demanding that nuclear powers enter a hot war. It is always incredible to witness how so many American reporters become champions for U.S. militarism without a shred of concern for the human life they purport to care about. I think that's unfair to Richard Engel. I think Richard Engel is, does the West watch in silence as it rolls? Can you not even ask that question without being perceived as a warmonger? Tommy, this is shockingly glib. It's not as simple as watch in silence as it rolls or not. The stakes are risking nuclear annihilation. I get that. I think Richard Engel gets that as well. But again, I think we need to at least be having the dialogue and the conversation and exploring the option. Somebody else, it would be an open declaration of war. So we might as well go all in and send tens of thousands of troops on the ground. If you want to argue for a full-scale war, argue for a full-scale war. Don't try to backdoor it. Phil Henry, funny guy. Are you a reporter or a warmongerer? Remember Phil Henry used to do the bits where listeners wouldn't know his shtick? I must say, I remember for the first few weeks I listened to his program. I had no idea what I was listening to. But damn, he was talented when he did it. And then one more, Robbie Suave, who's a libertarian writing at reason.com. It should go without saying, this is an extremely bad idea. The risk is far too great. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but one more paragraph from Robbie Suave. The plight of the Ukrainians is tragic, but as much as we might like to aid them militarily, the U.S. cannot undertake a course of action with a significant likelihood of causing nuclear annihilation. While it be gratifying to punish Putin for trying to reclaim the Soviet empire, a bad actor's malicious behavior is no excuse for recklessness on the part of the U.S. Despite Engel's suggestion that the situation presents a moral dilemma, there is no dilemma here to speak of. War between nuclear powers is not an option. There is no dilemma here to speak of. Do you agree with Robbie Suave? Is there no dilemma here to speak of? I think there's a dilemma because this convoy is right now on Kyiv. And, with the president, I'm not lost on me, is that the president's State of the Union address is tonight. So, do the math. What are they, 5 or 6 hours ahead of us? And many of the attacks are coming in the dark of night. I think it's conceivable that as President Biden is delivering a State of the Union address, you could have that convoy moving right into Kyiv. And what will we say tomorrow? I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer other than a firm opinion that there is a dilemma here to speak of. And the dilemma is a 40-mile-long convoy is headed to Kyiv to supply arms and kill people. And I fear how, 24 or 48 hours from now it's going to look. Gone is the confidence of yesterday. Like, how do we give this guy an off-ramp? Because so far it's all going, in context, well for the Ukrainians, but that could all turn on a dime. I mean, if Putin wants to commit the resources, he could wipe out Ukraine, right? I think so. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It is really... It is really frustrating. It's like these are sitting ducks headed to a slaughter. Shouldn't we do something? Anyway, more questions than answers, but I will pay attention to what all of you are thinking and posting in terms of comments here as well. I just thought I'd, open up a YouTube Live and tell you what was on my mind today, because this is the issue of the day. What to do about the convoy. My survey question at Smerconish.com asks whether, let me tell you how I worded it exactly. Should there be a preemptive attack from the West on the Russian convoy headed to Kyiv? Should there be a preemptive attack from the West on the Russian convoy heading to Kyiv? Go over to the website and answer that survey question, and I'll read all these comments a little bit later after my radio program today. Okay. Have a great day. Stay safe. If you have the answer to this question, I hope you're posting it here because I can't wait to read. Thanks, everybody.